I can't imagine being anywhere else. I feel like every single day I have this grateful heart. Like I just know that there has been I've been offered so many chances, and I've been given another chance at life, and I really feel a lot of pressure to make that life count.
Jessica Turri knew about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital from the time she was a little girl, growing up in Memphis, home to St. Jude. She had raised money for St. Jude, participating in fundraising programs like St. Jude Triathlon and Mathathon. Jessica participated in a grade school art contest, imagining a day when childhood cancer was no more. But shortly after that, Jessica would find herself walking through the red front doors of St. Jude, beginning her own personal journey with childhood cancer, with her mother Allison, her father Steve, and sister Jordan there for every moment.
I can only hope that it's, paying it forward and helping, a family who's walking in today. It's just sort of make their journey a little bit better.
This is St. Jude Flashpoint.
I'm Jessica Turri, and I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's also known as ALL, when I was 9 years old, and that's where my St. Jude journey began.
She's my oldest child. She's a person who keeps a lot of plates spinning. She's a very spirited person and a spiritual person as well, but she was always very driven. She's probably the strongest person I ever knew, honestly.
Jessica, they had I think it was like Change the World theme for some artwork, and Jessica did this picture, and it had the front of St. Jude, and it just said St. Jude, like a kindergartner would draw it. And it had balloons going up and everything, and it said, "Let's go home," and it was cancer's cured, and it was St. Jude, and it was 3 years before she was ever diagnosed.
I had done this art contest as a kindergartner, and the art shows a bunch of kids, like stick figures, holding balloons, and it's in front of a simple kid-drawn building, and it just says, "Let's go home." So I knew enough about St. Jude, even as a kid, that when they had given us this theme, I guess like if you had a dream, what would it be? I drew this picture of St. Jude closing, and that was as a 5-year-old. But I'd also done the Mathathon and the Triathlon. We've talked about what those kids go through, and we've talked about how heroic they are, but it's going to be so different when we walk through those doors, and that is me, and that is our family.
I think she decided she wanted to be as normal as possible, no matter what. She absolutely positively wanted to be as normal at school. She tried to miss as few days as possible at school, and anyway, I think she's just a strong character.
I went to elementary school at the school that was in our neighborhood, and my mom was the art teacher at the school where my sister and I went. And so that was a really awesome thing, having mom down the hallway, especially when I was diagnosed with leukemia, because I spent a lot of time going down to mom's classroom to take naps or to get my medicine. And our goal was always to live as normal of a life as we could. And having her there at the school sort of helped me to get the care that I needed, but also to go on with the normal days of being in the classroom when I could. But I had amazing teachers, and so elementary school was great. Grew up with the kids that, were in the neighborhood, and then we ended up going to middle school and high school together.
As a kid, I think it's natural for other kids to be curious about Jessica having no hair, or, she had crutches at one point. She looked different. And I don't remember anyone saying things to me about it, but I remember Jessica having some really hard days from questions she got, or just feeling, not like a little girl as she should have. And those are, of course, my words, but I remember she was so embarrassed when she got the crutches, because that just made it a little too real for everyone around her, right? She could wear a hat and maybe it didn't draw as much attention to her, but when you have crutches and you're in, maybe 6th grade, that's not a fun thing. And you have it not because you were active and broke your leg, it's because you're taking really strong medicine and your bones aren't strong enough, She was always so positive about it, and I think what the hardest part of those moments is that she just didn't like for people to know how sick she was, didn't like for them to know how tired and maybe how bad she was hurting that day. And so that just, you can't deny when you're walking around with purple crutches and you're in middle school.
I think she's really a amazing character, just a hero to me. And I'm dad. I mean, obviously dads are going to think that, but I mean, I was always just impressed by her.
Jessica and all that she's been through, I think she just amazes me.
I can tell when she's really pushing it. She has this kind of a look. This maybe only a dad would see this. It's kind of a thing she does with her lower lip.
There's kind of like a certain face that she makes, and I know that she's like faking it.
She's just incredibly tired, but she wants to keep on moving forward.
You would never know it by looking at her, how sick she sometimes is. And I think that can be a really great thing, but that can also be a really hard thing.
She's never been very physically strong since then. And, she's never going to run a marathon. She's never going to, but she understands all that. She's okay. She doesn't care. Sometimes I'll be like, you really need to just walk, go outside and walk, because, again, she has some bone damage, and weight-bearing activity is good for that. She's like, well, I don't know. That just never has bothered her. She just tried to go on and be as normal. I mean, it's hard after everything she went through and all the things that come with being a St. Jude patient. There are a lot of, in a strange way, there are some perks.
I'm sure she would probably tell you that she probably wouldn't change a thing. I think it made her who she is.
She has an understanding of the true meaning of life. I used to say, she understands it's not about where you sit at the lunch table in 3rd grade or going to cheerleading lessons or whatever. She knows there's a whole lot more to it, and that nothing is a given. It can go tomorrow, and she understands that, and because of that, she lives it to the fullest. She travels as much as possible, tries to have as many new experiences as much as possible, but she also is still very, very close to her family. Other families, I'm not saying we won't ever have problems or that we don't have problems, but we've been through something together, that gives us an entirely different sort of a bond. We all lived in the same neighborhood. We went to school in the same place. Several of her friends' mothers were teachers or, whatever. That was a real tight-knit little community. They were Girl Scouts, just everything that you would expect. Going to the beach with the same kids, just everything, all the normal things.
That's where I was when I was diagnosed, right? Like, we were going to tea parties, and I had Molly and my friend had Felicity, and we were buying costumes for them and matching them with our own dresses. And when I was diagnosed, all of that was put on hold. So like my dolls went up in the box.
Your lives are so normal. You know, you're going to piano lessons and doing normal things, and then everything really turns upside down.
They called Jessica home. She was at school, and to tell her, and it was really dramatic.
Jessica had been sick for several weeks and was in and out of the hospital. They were trying to figure out what was wrong. And so I just remember my teacher saying, "I'm going to take you home," but I could just tell how serious it was.
Kids just think you're going to be sick for a while and you're going to come through on the other side of this.
And so I went home with her, and she took me to my house eventually. And then I remember my parents sitting on the couch with Jessica. It was just a very solemn, everyone was so scared.
When you're in that situation, it's very difficult. You know, you're trying to explain, like, we're going to make it through this.
In a very weird way, their childhood kind of stopped.
You wish you could take their place, of course, you know, keep them from having to live through this.
It wasn't, hey, let's play with dolls anymore. It was completely different.
When your child is born, you know at the moment that they're born that you would jump into the lion's den for them.
Up next, Jessica's young life changes forever.
I remember she kind of sunk down to the floor. Still remember her asking, you know, what did I do to deserve this?
Rate, review, and subscribe to St. Jude Flashpoint on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app. Learn more, donate, or volunteer at stjude.org. Finding cures, saving children.